Hello everybody and welcome to the Punchboard Report. My name is Blake Ryder. Today we are looking at Bites. This was designed by Wolfgang Ditt and Bridgette Ditt, and this was published in 2020 by BoardGameTables.com. Now, this game is a filler-style game, so 15 to 20 minutes roughly, and what you're going to be doing in this game is you have this pool of ants that don't necessarily belong to anybody. They're kind of a neutral pool of ants, and you're going to be advancing these ants along this trail of food tokens and collecting food tokens along the way, and at the end of the game, these food tokens are going to be worth points based on where these ants finish this race of sorts. So, tell you what, let's get the setup on the table, and we'll be back after that for some thoughts. Now, when I play this game, I like to really, take advantage of my table real estate and spread out. But you can make this path of food tokens in whatever shape you want. You can make it more compact. You just need a beginning and an end and a path, and that's really it. Then you have your 5 racing ants, and they correspond to the colors you see here of the different food tokens. And then you have your winner's pedestal over here, and the ants are going to file into this pedestal as they finish the path, and they're going to score points based on what level they finish at. And then you have a stack of one of each of the food tokens over there as well. Now, generally speaking, the way the game works, you're going to take any one of these ants on your turn. It doesn't matter. No one owns one specific ant, and you will move it to the next space matching the color of the ant, and then you'll take either the food token in front of or behind the ant. I could take this pepper, and then the next player would go, and they could theoretically move the purple again, and then take either one of those cheeses, or they could move something else. They could theoretically move the brown and move it there, and then take an apple, for argument's sake. And then you're going to keep doing that, and eventually they're going to reach the pedestal, and then they're going to take a specific position on the pedestal, and then they will be worth points at the end of the game based on where they finish. Now, what makes the game interesting is that you get a whole bunch of these cards, and at the beginning of the game, before you start, you're going to take 4 of them, and that's going to dictate the rules for this specific game. More specifically, how wine is going to be handled, how chocolate is going to be handled, as well as how the ants are going to file and finish into this into that winner's pedestal at the end of the game, or the anthill as they call it. And then there's also a card for a kind of like a special effect. So ultimately, at the beginning of the game, we're going to pick these, and this is the combination of cards they recommend for your first game. You have the collector for wine. Each wine is worth 1 point for each different type of food you have at least one of. You have the overachiever, and that's going to dictate the ants filing into the anthill. And in this situation, when the ants get there, they'll take the highest available space. And then you have the doubler for chocolate, and that makes each chocolate where you can kind of use a chocolate token to go a second time. And then you have a special rule. However, for the first game, they recommend the minimalist, which gives you no specific special effect, but I'll show you a few more of those a little bit later. So in this game, like I said, whatever ant finishes first is going to go to the top. So eventually, let's say the red ant will be here, and then the next player to elect to move the red ant, probably someone who has a lot of apples and wants to make them worth as much as possible, will move the ant there, and then then the red food tokens, the apples, will be worth 4 points. And then whoever does that will also take any one of the remaining food tokens there. They would obviously take the apple because that will be worth 4. So that's the game. And like I said, there's a bunch of different cards that'll switch up how they score. There is one variant where you actually file the ants in from the bottom to the top. So finishing first would actually make you worth 0. So you kind of have to play who has what and so on and so forth. And that's the game. Whoever has the most points wins. All right, so there you have it. That is Bites. So let's get into it. This is a light filler weight game, so as always, we have to look at it in the context of what it is. Now, this is a fun game. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's not going to knock your socks off, but frankly, I don't think it was really designed to do that. It was designed to be the kind of game that you can play casually, or you can really sink your teeth into it if you play with some of the more advanced, complex cards. It's kind of one of these games that you can put in whatever really you want. And the cards, these are the cards, they make the game. This is what makes the game, because you can mix and match, and then the cards have different star levels, if you can see right there, and that is going to gauge the difficulty of the cards. So, just to give you a couple of examples, this one is called the Specialist. Each wine token is worth 1 point for each food token of the type that you have the most of. So if you have 5 or 6 of an apple, each one of your food tokens will be worth, of your wine tokens would be worth that. The counterfeiter, this is a cool one. So each wine token is worth 1 point for each of your food tokens that is worth 0 or 1 point. So if you kind of strategically maneuver the ants such that you can keep some ants back and get their ants matching food tokens so they're worth 0 or 1, and then you get a lot of wine tokens, you can make your wine tokens worth a ton of points. So there are cards like that, and when you can kind of dress it up or dress it down depending on how complex you want to play. For me personally, it's not the kind of game that I'm going to proactively take off the shelf when I'm playing games with gamers. It's more of the kind of game that I'm going to pull off the shelf when I'm playing with my nieces, or a more casual kind of game. And then, frankly, when I pull it off in those situations, I'm not necessarily going to be pulling, using the more complex cards. I'm probably using the more basic cards to play the game. So that's kind of how I am with this game. I think from a component standpoint, the components are great. The bite tokens are solid. They're thick. They're like double layer tokens, and they have like these bites in them, and they're smooth. They're nice and big, chunky tiles. Really, really nice quality. And that anthill that just pops off the table, also really cool. And it kind of gives us the game a really cool table presence. If you play this in a public place, a bar or something like that, people are going to walk by and wonder what you're doing, because it's a game. You've never seen a game like this. There's no board. You just kind of make the path however you want, and the colors are very vibrant. So really cool on the components as well. Overall, for me, this is a game that I will pull off the shelf in certain situations, generally with more casual gamers, but there is some more meaty stuff for people that want a more thoughtful and a more challenging experience with these cards. So if this sounded interesting to you, check it out, and thank you for watching. My name is Blake Ryder.